Well, good morning, good afternoon. I guess it's good morning everywhere other than where we are right here on the East Coast. But first of all, I want to thank you all for completing the survey. This is very important to the work we do. We've been researching the affluent and advisors, in these parallel projects now for 2 decades. And it's just given us a treasure of information. It helps us help you. So again, thank you for that. And this is the first of 3 coaching sessions that's our gift back to you for participating. And this is on selling in social circles. And I raise my hand for this one because social selling is so critically important in the world of today's affluent. We have 5 years of metrics that say when advisors get social with their affluent clients, they're ranked higher in every category, from investments meeting expectations, go figure, from their financial planning to their service model. It goes on and on and on. And mind you, it also, there's like a threefold effect into the amount of business they get from these introductions and referrals from these affluent clients who they've expanded this relationship with. So, again, socializing with your affluent clients is essential, but how do you socialize properly? How do you socialize without coming across like a salesman? How do you use the words that work? How do you throw that dart when you do have an opportunity, go for that simple little mini close very subtly without coming across salesy? So this is truly an art form, and this is what we're going to be talking about here today. How to get social. We've seen advisors ask me, we get a question a day about how do I socialize? How do I get social? I've never really socialized with my clients. And my response, if they're asking me, is, do you eat lunch? Just call your client and say, gosh, it's been a long time. Should have done this a while ago, but I want to take you and Sandy to a non-business lunch. I'm not bringing any paperwork. We're just going to catch up. And that's just the beginning of getting social. So from that, let's just look about how do we get active. The key is getting out of the office. As you can see here, getting involved in your community, whether, the civic, social, niche groups, chamber, Rotary, could be a cycling group, could be a yoga class, a spin class. Could it be an affinity group? My wife is into photography. She's done photography trips around the world. We're going to Iceland for her photography trip. Country clubs. These are all places where the affluent congregate. And the key is getting active out there in the community. And when you have good social selling skills, being out there in the community is exactly where you want to be. And if you're not sure, how to get involved or where you should get involved, ask your clients, ask your affluent clients, your top tier clients, ask your your centers of influence, your referral partners. Just as we say here, I want to get more involved in the community. If I had a few hours I could donate each month, where would you recommend I get involved? And what you'll happen, and if a top tier client is suggesting, a club or an organization, ask to sort of audit it. Ask if you could go as a guest. That client will always say, absolutely. And what will happen is that client will be your advocate. That client will get you positioned in that organization. But then it's up to you, because you just don't want to attend and hope by getting on that board or being on this particular committee and just showing up that business is going to come your way. No, you got to get involved. You have to position yourself as a giver, somebody who's giving time, energy, and intellect to that organization. And then when you do get on a board, again, you don't have to be the leader of the committee, but you can be dumb like a fox and take a leadership position by suggesting, why don't we all meet off out of the boardroom? Let's go to my house, my back porch, or my sunroom, or let's have a little cookout and discuss this thing over a couple of drinks or beers or whatever it might be. And then you take this sort of, situational leadership role. And from that, what you're doing is you're targeting 1, 2, or 3 people on that committee or in this organization who you want to begin to develop a relationship with outside of that boardroom. And when you start socializing with these people outside of the organization, this is where you really find your opportunities. Now, the key, though, at all times is making the right first impressions. And I can't emphasize this enough, because our research is very, very, very clear on this, that when the affluency of financial advisor in a social setting, the way they assess their relevance, their success, their professionalism is really interesting. It's not by the car they drive. It's not by the size of their office. It's the primary, number one by far, is their personal presence, their gravitas. The energy we project. We all project energy. So if you go into that social event and you're a little bit nervous, you're a little bit fidgety, and very close to personal presence is your people skills. Now, let me stop here for a second. I know you've heard me say this before, but this needs repeating. Typically, financial advisors talk too much and listen too little. And nobody likes anybody who talks too much. And if you're out there in that social playing field and you're yapping away, you have poor people skills and you're shooting yourself in the foot. So you want to be a listener. So you go prepared to these social events, with a game plan. We call this strategic intent. So at that social event, you're not looking to glad hand everybody. You're not looking to be the life of the party or the smartest person in the room. You're zeroing in on 1, 2, possibly 3 people. Maybe it's an affluent client there who is going to introduce you to a colleague. You've got this pre-planned in your mind. You know who's going to be there. And then you have questions that you have already prepared to just sort of ask, whether it's asking that person you're introduced to or sort of conversational topical questions you're going to basically engage in. So you get conversation going so you can listen. Now, the third criteria here that the affluent look for is your dress. It's your hygiene. Dress for success is in. That doesn't mean you have to wear a suit and tie. Business casual is really in. And in fact, the affluent have told us in our research for the past 3 years, if you wear a suit and tie in the office, fantastic. If you have business casual in the office, fantastic. It doesn't matter. But it better be good business casual. It better be a very good sports coat, a nice dress shirt. Your shoes are shine. So all these little things count. And then, of course, it's your body language. You can't have gravitas if you're slumping. You can't have gravitas if you're a close talker. You look like, I don't know what you look like when you have too much makeup on, or if you're too trendy, you got your hair pointed up like a mohawk, or you got a little too many illustrations that are visible. That's okay if you're working at Starbucks, but I'm not so sure about somebody who's really going to be overseeing the financial affairs for the affluent in the community. And by gosh, handshakes are relevant. Now, you don't need to be squeezing somebody so they go down to their knees, but you don't want to have that little fish handshake either. It's just silliness. So make certain that you are there to create that good first impression. You're walking into that event. It's your presence, your gravitas. Less is more. The less you talk and the more you listen, the more you're focused on somebody else, the more rapport you will build and the more you'll elevate your status. Now, this is something that shouldn't be said, but it needs to be said. There's no superficiality when it comes to socializing in affluent circles. You have to be genuinely interested. The key there is genuinely interested. So when you ask, you have these questions that you've created, as I just said, and you go to that social event and you ask somebody where they're from, you better be listening. Because this individual is going to tell you something about his or herself, about their past. They're going to give you insight in how to connect with them on a stronger level, how to develop rapport. And if the conversation goes any further, they're probably going to give you insight in where their hot buttons are for selling your services. How long have you been involved in such and such group? How long have you worked for such and such company? How old are your children? Where do they go to school? How did you end up in the consulting business? Do you know anybody? Do you know somebody at such and such firm? Are you planning to go to the next fundraiser? And what you're doing is you're focusing back on the person you're conversing with. It's not about you, it's about them. And the more we focus on them, this is Dale Carnegie 101. The more we focus on somebody else, not ourselves, and be genuinely interested in them, our status just keeps going up and up and up. And we develop rapport. Once you develop rapport, trust is established. And trust is the key factor. If you establish trust, you're about 3/4 of where you need to be to onboard a new client if there's an opportunity. So let me just give you a simple example. So we have an affluent role play series that we use with our coaching clients, and we got close to probably 70 affluent role plays. And this is one of them here. It's a social selling example, but the setup is basically you're at a social function and somebody asks you the proverbial how's business question. Now, we all know the affluent come in a rainbow of personalities, just like the human race. You have people who are just curious, you have people who are nice, you have people who are obnoxious, you have people who are kind of standoffish. But this is a common question. But the question most typically will come from somebody who's posturing a little bit. I'm a businessman, I just talk business. Oh, hey, Matt, how's business? And it's more about them than it is you. So, and I've heard all kinds of replies, and most of them are poor. Oh, great, couldn't be better. Great, doing great, couldn't be better. Yep, things are just clicking right along. Those are superficial responses. When you're asked this question, it's an opportunity to position yourself as a true professional, and you're giving a little insight to your value proposition. So the example of your reply, how's business? Well, gosh, with the economic volatility today, we've been focused on meeting with all of our clients, reviewing their financial plans, and basically it's a lot of work. But I do confess, we're really proud because all of our clients are on target with their financial goals. Now, what have I done? I was concise, even though it was a little bit long. I was concise. I delivered that conversationally, and I did it with natural confidence. And so think of your language, your conversation in social selling or affluent circles, which is basically what social selling is all about in affluent social circles. Your verbiage needs to be concise. Nobody likes a blowhard. And you need to be conversational, because if I rattle off that same response, arrogantly, if I rattle that off, just as if it was a memorized script, no, doesn't work. And it has to be delivered with nice, relaxed confidence, not arrogance. Arrogance isn't confidence. Arrogance is showboating. Now, what happens when you deliver a response like that? Because you're good at what you do in social selling circles, so you're looking for the response, the reaction. And if you have this person's attention, now mind you, this person gave you that throwaway question, how's business? And your response is, it's with the volatility today. You go through that, you're taking a very serious response line, short and sweet, and you're looking this person dead in the eye. And if you got their attention, if they follow up with a question, you definitely have their attention. But if you can just tell by looking at them, and often this is the case, you've got their attention, then you've earned the opportunity for a follow-up question. And it's simple. Now you're throwing a dart. Now you're being a little pointed. Has your advisor reviewed your financial plan recently? Then you just pause. You shut up. And what have you done? You've created a mini closed sales situation out of thin air. And if they don't have a financial plan, you've got their attention. If their financial plan hasn't been reviewed recently, you've got their attention. And then, dumb like a fox, you can say, gosh, golly, you really should have your plan reviewed in today's environment. Why don't we just grab a cup of coffee sometime, next week and let me take a look. And that's it. And you created it out of thin air. Now, this requires practice. This requires getting very comfortable with less being more and knowing, what you're going to do. So you're going to this social event prepared for this type of question. Now, there's other conversations, where you can go for the business more directly. People ask you, about the markets, how are the markets doing, and, gosh, the markets have been rocky lately. You've just been working closely with our clients, making sure they're protected and on track to meet their goals. Then you take a pause. Can I make a suggestion? Why don't you come by the office? And why don't we show you how we do what we do and how we track the markets relative to the plans we have? Just simple. Or business or life transition, somebody is retiring. We've worked with a lot of people going through this situation. It probably makes sense for us to get together. Just make sure your ducks are in a row, financially. Or here's the one that really pulls advisors out of their comfort zone. And think about the people who you'd love to have as clients. They have affluence for sure. You've got good relationships with them. You don't want to ruin that relationship. You've never really talked business. And you assume they know what you do. But the odds are they don't. And so now it's just because. We've never really talked business before, but I'd like to put my professional cap on and run a couple things by you. Then I'd invite them to the office. Why don't you come to the office over lunch? We'll have lunch brought in. You can meet the team. I just want to share with you what we do. Now, if this is somebody you have a good relationship with, this is nearly foolproof. They're going to take you up on this. Now, they might not become a client, but they're going to take you up on this. If you think you're ruining the relationship by having this conversation, you didn't have a relationship to begin with. And again, this requires preparation. So we go to these social events, we know who we're going to be targeting. We know people get into market conversations, and we don't want to sound like a typical stockbroker and start prognosticating about the markets. We know people are going to get into political conversations, and we're prepared because we don't get into political conversations. There's too much toxicity there, and people with affluence, they're not hiring a financial advisor because of their political affiliations. They're hiring a financial advisor to get them through these challenging times, and that's going to be you. So, by the way, if your tendency is to get into a political conversation, don't. Just listen and nod your head affirmatively that you understand. And then here's our advice always. Throw the media under the bus. Because the media and politicians, all politicians, not Democrats only, not Republicans only, all politicians have very low credibility right now in affluent circles. Throw them all under the bus. The media just fans the flames of all this, and these politicians are giving sound bites to get people all stirred up. I don't really think anybody quite understands what's going on. And they put all their attention on this, which is outside of their control other than going to the voting booth. And they don't focus on what they can control. You know how few people have had a risk analysis conducted on their portfolio? Now, what have I done? I've changed the subject. I've done it very conversationally. I was concise. I did it with confidence. And you know what? If I got their attention, I'm going for a mini close and suggesting that we sit down for a risk analysis. It's not complicated. But we have to be prepared. Working in social circles, Selling in affluent social circles really requires a game plan. You have to have strategic intent. You got to be working on your sales skills. They need to be seamless. Your affluent conversations need to be concise, but they need to be done conversationally. And you have to have your antenna out at all times for windows of opportunity, because they're there. And you always want to have that natural confidence. That's the presence. That's the gravitas. Now, once you meet somebody in these affluent circles, sort of, it's a simple checklist here, but think about it. When was the last time you got a handwritten note? Hey, Matt, great to meet you. Look forward to that. Look forward to seeing you on the golf course, or look forward to seeing you on the tennis courts, or look forward to seeing you at the next board meeting. And always make sure that you offer a connection on social media, a personal connection. LinkedIn, Facebook. I mean, the social media is just becoming a tool, that is so powerful. I mean, it's basically, from a relationship management standpoint to a relationship marketing standpoint, is brilliant. Any article clippings that you come across that might be relevant. So if you're connecting with me, you know that I follow the NFL, or you know that I'm a cyclist. So anything about cycling, anything about the NFL or Major League Baseball, or I read history all the time. Right now I'm reading, George H.W. Bush's biography. So any new history book that's coming out, anything like that, lets me know that you've been listening and you're connecting. And this last bullet here, help others first, it's so critical. Adam Grant wrote this book, being a giver. When you help somebody first, it sets a precedent. You give first, whether it's introducing them to some of your connections on LinkedIn, whether it's helping them find a landscaper because they're having their yard redone. It doesn't matter, but help others first. Just think of that sort of as your own personal mantra. Now, we have performance coaching. If you're ever interested in any of our coaching, it involves our live events. We're going to be having our Affluent Marketing Symposium February 4th and 5th in La Jolla. Love for any of you who are interested to attend, and those coaching clients out there, this is part of your coaching, tuition. And we have an upcoming webinar series, which we're really excited about. Again, this is for our coaching clients as part of your tuition. This is included. But those of you who are interested in any of these topics, Fast Track for Growth, for newer advisors, LinkedIn social selling, the art of selling to the affluent, Facebook sales essentials, elite financial teams, and the Referral Alliance Accelerator. This is just the first of the series. Now, Thursday, tomorrow, Stephen Boswell is going to be conducting the second of this coaching series for you who participated in the survey on elite teams. So you're going to get a heads up on teams. And then Friday, our LinkedIn guru, Kevin Nichols, is going to be doing the LinkedIn selling or social media selling. But mind you, let me brag on these two just a little bit. Stephen last year met with 40 teams around the country, elite teams. And these teams, they spent a day with each of them. It was a lot of work. And they averaged, these teams had $2 billion or more in assets. And, we were researching them. They thought they wanted us to coach them. At the same time, we were finding out what they were doing well. He is a master of this. Kevin, by the way, Kevin Nichols, when it comes to LinkedIn selling, we've done so much research on social media selling, that is. Kevin and I co-authored a book, The Indispensable LinkedIn Sales Guy. He is our go-to person. He's the industry's go-to person on social media. So please take advantage of this. And with all that said, if you ever have an issue, ever have a question, you ever have a thought, please contact us. Email, tweet, see us on our, connect with us on social media, and we will respond. Bye for now.